minute. And I'm just asking people to type into chat where you work and what your job role is, just so everybody knows who's at the meeting today. But just to introduce myself, I'm Sue Lewis, and I head up the Career Pilot team, and I'm based at the University of Bath. But I work on behalf of 20 universities, and also I link closely with 6 Uni Connects, one of which is Study Hire. So this session tonight is run jointly by Career Pilot and also Study Hire. And before we get going, I'm going to pass across to Beth, because I think, Beth, you're going to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Sue. I just wanted to say hi to everybody. I can't stay for the whole session, unfortunately, but I know that you'll pick up some great bits of information and tips, etc., for how to use Career Pilot. We find a lot of our schools are using it now, and I know that there are other platforms out there, but one of the great things is that we as Study Hire do pay for our schools to be able to access the platform, and there are lots of great resources, as I say, for you to access. So if you do have anything, any questions or anything after the meeting, or you want to know anything else about any of the work we do, please do get in touch. I've dropped my email in the chat there, but I think most of you have it anyway, and I look forward to seeing you all sometime in the future, hopefully, when we're allowed back out into the public circle again. So yeah, thanks for doing all of this today, Sue, and I hope you all enjoy it.
Okay, thanks for that. So I'm going to get started now. So you might want to put your mics off, you might want to put your videos off, that's absolutely fine. And I will stop at certain intervals to see if there's anything you particularly want to ask. Sian is also here from my team today, so she'll be keeping an eye on the chat, and she'll be recording attendance now that we're getting started. Hi, Richard, you just come in. Hopefully you can hear everything and we're all working okay for you. I'm just adding you to my attendance list, because then we'll make sure you get some follow-up after this session. And Asim is here today, and Asim's from Study Hire as well. Okay, so we can answer any of your questions as we go through. Okay, let's get started. So the title of today's session is Career Pilot, Effective Career Activities for Your Students in a Virtual World. So what we're trying to show you is how you can actually use Career Pilot to deliver effective careers and show you our resources. Now, hopefully by next week, we won't be so much in the virtual world, but I suspect going forward, we'll still be using online tools much more than we ever did before, and your students will be doing that too. So whatever we talk about today is going to be highly relevant, whatever happens into the future. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is give you some overview information about the 4 different zones we have on Career Pilot. I will show you the range of resources we have, so you know how you can go and explore them. And as we go through, I'll be talking about how Career Pilot can help you meet the Gatsby benchmarks. Now, today is a bit of a sort of whistle-stop tour of Career Pilot, but we do have lots of other webinars that you can attend after today's session. And we also offer free a one-to-one consultation. Now, Sarah had one quite recently. How was that for you? Sorry, you might want to put something in chat if you thought it was useful. And that will help you find out more about Career Pilot and think about how you start to implement it in your context. So as mentioned by Beth, it is free to use in your area, and that is because it's supported by 20 universities and 6 Uni Connects, and you're lucky enough to be in Study Hire. So Career Pilot is free to access. We do have a new tool called the Pathway Planner, and I will mention that briefly at the end. And for anybody, there's a charge for the Pathway Planner. So if you decide to add that on, you'll have to pay for that, and I'll explain more at the end. If you're outside our area, you'd have to pay an annual subscription for Career Pilot and the Pathway Planner. So you're fortunate, really, that's all paid for you. Okay, so even before COVID, just as if we think about the students that we're trying to engage in terms of careers, even before COVID, students were having to manage uncertain futures, as we know. And I quite like this that comes from some research. The shirt says, if you were born in 2002, then it's likely you might live to 100. And you could have 12 careers in your time. So that was what students were having to think about anyway. And then along came COVID and threw everything up in the air. And what we know from some recent Unifrog research, and other things we'll know anecdotally anyway, is that, you know, it has been a real challenge for students in all sorts of ways. Almost 3/4 of students think it's become harder for them to get a job in the future, and also for them to get work experience and the things that are going to help to build up their skills. One positive out of that is that what Unifrog have found is that the skill that most students are logging on their platform is independence. So certainly there are, hard things from COVID, but there are other things too, where I think we've all got a lot better using online resources for a start. And what we also know from the pandemic is that, it is having an impact on people's stress levels, young people's as well as adults, and potential mental health. And this briefing paper from the CDI talks about the impact of careers guidance on mental well-being. And we all know this from our own practice. If the students have a plan, they know how to get information, it can just reassure them about their futures. And that's certainly our experience on Career Pilot. So these are the challenges students are facing. Now, what we know from our research and our feedback on Career Pilot from thousands of students is that it really helps them to address these things. It helps them in terms of their confidence, their motivation, their understanding. So there's absolutely tons of information in Career Pilot that's going to help them, but also advice and support and tools as well. I don't know if you're aware that behind Career Pilot, we're all qualified careers advisors and ex-teachers. One other thing we know from our research is they really like having the Career Pilot account. They love the job sectors and the job profiles, those are always number one, but also being able to see their report, which moves up on them manually, and being able to bookmark the things they're interested in. So these are all the things we offer through Career Pilot. Career Pilot can also be used right across the school. So there's things in there for all the people who need to be engaged in careers, if it's a kind of whole school approach. Obviously the students, but obviously the parents, the carers too. Then if you're delivering, there are resources for tutors and PSHE staff. Loads of things there for you as the careers leader. This could be a one-stop website that could help you manage all the things you have to do as a careers leader. We've got resources for subject teachers to link their subject to careers, and all this builds up to having loads of information that informs the personal guidance situation, and the Pathway Planner enhances that even more. So you can have Career Path at the centre of what you're trying to do for careers. So I'm just going to drill down now into the system. So in terms of the Stable Careers Programme, Career Pilot has lots of different zones, and if you're using them together, then that really helps to put your Stable Careers Programme together. So we've got the student zone, and the data from the students using the student zone populates the reporting zone. And these are all free access things I'm talking about here. Then there's the advisor zone, there's lesson plans, materials, things to help you deliver it, and a parent zone as well. We're always trying to engage parents. So we now have the Pathway Planner, which is developed through a bid to the National Careers and Enterprise Company. It's an approach we developed, we piloted last year, and it's now called the Pathway Planner, and I could talk a bit more about that later. I know if this was 2008, maybe I can't keep mentioning it, but we did win a national award in 2018 from the Careers Development Institute for the quality of our website. So all those things can really help with Gatsby 1. Now we're trying to help students understand how they can manage their own careers, because as we said at the beginning, life is uncertain at the moment, but it's going to be uncertain into the future too. So we've got a little animated video here that you can show to students, and it takes them through the things they need to think about, shows them how, futures are changing, but the things they can do. Because all the time in Career Pilot, we're trying to give students the skills to manage their own careers. So in our video, we have 4 things: know yourself, your motivations, your interests, your values, do stuff to build your CV and your skills, know all your options, not just I'm going to college, but this is the course I'm going to do for this reason, and then use all your supporters. So your supporters are all of you, parents, but also Career Pilot is there to help them too. And that video is available on our homepage. You can just click on it and have a little look if you want to. So this is Career Pilot, and it's because it's 2011, so it has got a long shelf life. So this bit is open access, so anybody can access this across the country. But the advantage to you is that you can also get your students to register, and when they signed in, they get full access to our career tools. And this is where they can personalise the things they're interested in as they use the site. So we strongly suggest you get them registered, and then they sign in when they use it. Then when they see a job sector they like, they can pop it in here. Or if they do a skills map, it'll be saved here. And all that is creating a report for them, which they can share with their families and with you. But also all the data can be collated in the reporting zone, so you can find out what job sectors your 12 are interested in, or whatever it might be. So looking around the website, everything comes from one place, careerpilot.org.uk. So students can register here. You can to look at the reporting zone. You can also access the advisor zone and the parents zone here as well. There's lots of popular tools. We put those at the top. You can look for jobs. There's over 900 job profiles with LMI information, course search, apprenticeship vacancy search, providers, qualifications on a ladder. Over 1,000 video stories in the site, all tied into our jobs and qualifications. Because we're careers advisors, we're really keen to encourage students to have this process, which mirrors our video a bit. So we have a 3-stage process, which is start with you, explore your options, plan your next steps, and hopefully then keep returning to that when they make a career decision. A lot of our activities are structured under these 3 sections. But they might already have an idea about a qualification they want to do, so they can click here and get information and advice about that particular pathway. So for example, if they clicked on A-levels, on the left-hand side, you can see what topics we're covering here. There'll always be videos about that topic. There'll be a summary of what they're going to learn if they read on, or they can click to the bit they're particularly interested in. And then if they want to get back to that later, they can bookmark it, and that'll be added into their career tools. So to register, students just go here. You don't have to send a big list. They can register straight onto the site. And this form will come up and it'll ask them their details. And what they'll be asked to do is allocate themselves to a school or a college. So this is where you'll be on that list and they will allocate themselves to your school. And then you'll be able to see their data, because the next screen asks them to give you permission to do that. Now they own their account, it's theirs until they're 21, and they can port it into different places. If they move on to a college, then they can take it to the college. So they put in their year group and then they give agreement and then they're in. One thing your students will need to learn if they are using Career Pilot is how to tag. So it's quite simple to do, but they need to be taught it really so they realise. So on any page in Career Pilot, then on the right hand side is the option to add to their career tools. So for example, if they like this animal care worker job, they can add it in here. And then that now is going to appear in their job sectors, but also in the main report. But they can get rid of it later, because if they change their mind, that's fine. So the report is always a fluid changing thing according to where they are at that moment. So in terms of the 3 stages, I'll just run you through some of the things here. The first stage, we've got particular activities that are for different ages. So before COVID, they were just activities by age. They were tied into age and stage, in the sense that year 7 activities would be about learning about the careers landscape or different job sectors. Year 10 might be tied into work experience. Year 12 might be tied into post-18 choices. Now, since the pandemic, we've also put them out as online tutorials. So these are taught lessons which are recorded as videos. So in this section 2, it's all things to do with helping students understand more about themselves. So they could do quizzes to get started. They could start with a subject and see where it might lead. They could do our skills map, which is very popular, or they could plan their qualifications. And then the next stage is when they could explore their options. And they could do this in a quite detailed way, like by looking at the options at 16. So they look at age, or they can look at jobs or apprenticeship vacancies, or look at stories about a range of jobs. So they can look in detail. And then the next stage is how you're going to use all that. You've got your report, you've got your skills map results, and there's an action planner which you can use at any stage. We use that right throughout our work with students. We always get them to do 1 or 2 actions. So if I run you through some of the things to do with this first section, which is the start with you. I'm going to show you the quiz. We've got a job sector quiz, which helps them see what job sectors they'd be interested in. And I'm going to show you start with the subject and the skills map as well. So one of the things I mentioned is that we have activities for every year group. So before COVID, they could just click on one of these year group activity sets starters, and they would get 4 or 5 things that'd be worth them doing that link with age and stage. So there'd be one for every year group. So the idea is you can use Career Pilot from year 7 to year 13, and there'd be different things you can do every year according to the decisions you're trying to make or the exploration you need to undertake. Now, since And we've also got in the advisor zone introductory presentations that go with these. So you could either tell the students to go and do the activities for year 8, for example, or you could actually deliver a lesson. So that'd be about a 50-minute to an hour lesson. And we've done all the presentations for you. We'll go notes as well. So there'd be an introduction. These activities would be tied into that, and then a little plenary. And there's one for every year group that match to the things we've got for the students. Now, since COVID, we've also recorded them, as I said, as online lessons. And you can see here, there's a short one on how to get registered, which is based on maybe a 15-minute session. You can make it longer if you've got time. But then there's a specific lesson for every year group. And again, they're very much tied into the things they need to be thinking about. Okay, so just 1 or 2 things from this section. The job sector quiz I mentioned, 50 pictures of things they might want to do in a work situation. And then we show them what sectors is worth them exploring that fit with the sort of things they're saying. So it shows them a match based on what they've said, and then suggest some sectors. We always try and get them to think of the first one, but also to look at the second and third one as well. So it's a good start off point for students who are not quite sure what they might want to do in the future. There's another start point where they can start with the subject. This is also useful for subject teachers who are trying to help you achieve Gatsby 4, because what they could be doing is showing their subject, computing, and then it would show them jobs, courses, apprenticeships that that particular subject could lead on to. So students can access that themselves, or your subject teachers could just do that once a term, for example, and that'd be a good way to start that conversation about where subjects lead. So we've got that for 21 subjects. You can also, when students like a subject, they can add it. So that builds up into their report as well. So the skills map, this is a popular tool. There's a pre-16 and a post-16 version. And when we developed this was to try to help students recognise they already had a lot of skills, because often they don't realise that everything they've done has given them skills. So what we do is ask them what they've done in their life, their learning, or their work if they're post-16. And there'll be sets of questions. This is about hobbies. I've committed to an out-of-school sport or activity for more than a year, which obviously lots of students have done that. And then what it'll tell them what skills that activity has helped them develop. So in this case, it's flexibility, resilience, being physical, teamwork. And all the skills that all the examples they've identified through the quiz are shown here in our sort of dashboard. So the skills are in order here, depending on how many examples you generated from the quiz. But the idea is they add their own examples as they go through, so they can start this in year 7 and build it up. So there'll be lots of things there when they come to apply or write personal statements. It's used a lot in year 12 to help students get ready for writing their personal statements. So you can add your own example. It could be anything you've done. So it could be, I've had a work experience in Sainsbury's, or I've helped with babysitting. What skills has it given you? They can also say whether it happened in school or out of school. And then that'll be added in here as well. So the top skill, teamwork, here is because they've got 5 examples from the quiz and 1 they've generated themselves. So that's the one they've got most evidence of. One other nice thing they can do here is compare their skills to a job. So if they think they've got a job in mind, like nurse, plumber, whatever, they can have a look at the skills required for that job and see where their skills are. So they can begin to sort of match up a little bit, you know, oh, I've got some computing skills that's going to be useful in this job I'm interested in. And they can add their examples from here as well if they've got something they know is going to get closer to the job they're interested in. So when they're ready to apply, which obviously for year 10, 11 might be thinking about going on to college or an apprenticeship, and for year 11, 12, 13 is about their personal statement and applications, they can use their skills to apply, think about what they're applying for, and identify the skills they most need to flag up for that experience. So it'd be quite different if you're a nurse or a plumber. And then they can see all their examples they've got that actually link with that those particular skills. And then they could write a piece of evidence, and there's some examples of how to do it. So they've got it ready for their personal statements or applications. And if you've done any sort of encounters, they could go in and write that up. I did a work experience, or I went to visit somewhere, and that would count towards their skills map. So I'm on to section 2 now, and if you've got any questions, put them into chat, and Sean will be keeping an eye on chat, but I will pause as we go through so that you can ask some questions. But I'm into section 2 now, which is our explore your options section. So this is where, as I said, students can drill down in different ways according to their starting points, by age or by jobs or apprenticeships or whatever. So I'm just going to show you a few things in this section. So the job section, as I've mentioned, is very popular. So you can search for jobs by name or by sector, or the start of the subject comes from here as well. The job quiz is there as well. The careerometer, you might have seen that before, where they can compare up to 3 jobs and see the different salaries, working hours, and predictions of growth. One other thing we've got is how you find a job or experience. And we've done quite a lot of trawling around to find out about virtual work experience opportunities. So in that, there's a whole section on virtual work experience, and we try to sector up the different opportunities. So you might find that useful. We also tried to show job growth near to where they are. We used National Career Service infographics for our regions. We also tried to link to anything that's coming out of your local LEPs or wherever. There might be student forecast. Okay, and obviously all that helps with Gatsby 2, where we're trying to get students to understand about the labour market and understand about jobs. So I'm just going to show you how the job sectors work. You can search for a name of a job, as I said, or a sector. So you can drill down. Every sector heading has 3 subsets, so you can actually get to the bit you're particularly interested in. You can then get to over 900 job profiles, the data of which comes from National Career Service, but I think they look a bit more student friendly than some of the National Career Service stuff. So what you can see here is some data on their skills again. This is where it comes from. There'll always be video stories about that particular job. There's labour market information, where the job is predicted to grow, and there's employment by region as well. So you can see where the jobs are, which is obviously useful when you're talking to students. Just to say that that data is taken from LMI for All, which is a national data source, and that is about prediction of growth. So it might show that pilots are going to grow, for example, but obviously at the moment pilots are not doing much at all. So that is a prediction of growth, but in your local area, it will take them back to the infographics from National Career Service, which are a bit more of the time. We also have a course search, so students can search for degrees or apprenticeship vacancies or find providers offering 16 to 19 courses. I'm just going to show you a degree pathway in, so you can identify what degree. There's little drop down so they can get ideas of sort of subject categories. They put their postcode, how far they'd like to travel, and then they'll get their short list of courses, and they can drill down and they get even more data about that course, and they can, there's a direct link into that actual course file in the university. But they can also add it to their courses as well. So everything can be added to their career tools. So they build up their picture of the things they're interested in. There's a few other things in this Explore Your Options section. I mentioned the Qualification Planner. So this is where they can plot where they are currently. So it's useful for year 10, 11, saying I'm doing my GCSEs, and then to start thinking what you might do next. And it's quite eye-opening for them to see there's a whole range of things you can do. It's not all about A-levels or university. There's lots of different options. So they could put on here, those coloured markings show they could say they're doing it, they've done it, or they're considering it. So it's quite good as an inspirational tool. I've used it a lot with Uni Connect students. There's also a provider search, so they can actually use various criteria they can use and find out who's near them. Also, one thing, once they've actually added their qualifications, in My Qualifications, they can add their grades and subjects as well. So they can put whether they're predicted or actual, and then actually change it, you know, the year after they've actually got their results. So everything could be put in one place, really. So the third section is when you're kind of going to use all this. You can see your report, you've got your skills map, and you can do your action plans. As I said, we'll probably do those in an ongoing way. So they can write them in. You can write them in with them from the back end of the system, and they can keep a tab on whether they've actually achieved it or no longer required, for example. Okay, so the report that I mentioned quite a lot, this is where the students can see it. It can be quite detailed. And even before we put our bid into the Careers and Enterprise Company, we always used all this information to inform our personal guidance, because it would actually tell us a lot about the students before we met them. So you can see the qualifications, job sectors, providers, whatever else they've tagged. One other thing you could do in the system is write your reports. If you're a personal guidance advisor or a tutor, head of year, you can write a comment against the student about their careers. So all our guidance advisors write their report straight on here, and then it's visible to the student and any other staff member who can access that particular student. So that report moves up to them manually, and every year a snapshot is saved. So they've also got a record of where they were on a particular date. So that's the student zone in overview. There's a lot in it, and if you want to have a login for it later, then I'll tell you how you can go about getting that. I'm keeping an eye on chat, but I'm going to carry on as well. I think Sarah's typing, but I'll come back to that. Because what I'm going to do now is move into the advisor zone. So this is where you can find all the materials that will support delivery or support Gatsby. So this is what it looks like, and that's free access too. We've got a whole section about the pathway planner that I'm going to go into some detail about, but at least you'll know where to get back to information. We also have a careers leader portal, and this is where we've got maps showing how Career Pilot maps to Gatsby, and also how it maps to Campus. So if you're completing your Campus and you're using Career Pilot, it's got ways to show you how you can reference Career Pilot when you're completing that. We've also got Homeland Activities. So these are the video lessons I mentioned earlier. I'm going to show you them again. Got resources for every key stage 3, 4 and post 16. We've got lots of free training, so you could request that here. And we have got reporting zone, that's free access to, and you can request access here. And there's lots more that I won't have time to mention today. I'm just going to show you a few of those things though. So the home learning activities, so from the student side, they had those activities they could do. The online tutorials, we called them around that end, but around here we call them home learning activities. And these are the video lessons. The registration one, an introduction to work experience, virtual work experience, and various other lessons as well. So that's one of us delivering the session, and you can send them to students, or you could actually deliver them and stop and start the video to fit in with the lesson. We've also got these task sheets as well. So sometimes that's an easier way to do it, where you can send a task sheet to the students and say, do these things. And we've got one of those for every year group as well. So as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to help schools to use Career Pilot in a progressive way. So we've got suggested activities for the students, but that is reflected in resources like this, where we show the things that could be done every academic year. To support that, we've got 5-week PSHE programs for every year group, right up to year 12, with all the resources. And also just fun things, 20-minute tutor time activities. So if you're having 5 weeks, you talk about careers, then, you know, the tutors could be talking about it by doing these fun activities, got career splat and bingo and different things like that. Those are mostly for Key Stage 3 and 4, but the PSHE programs go right up to post 16. We've also got what we call our subject-specific resources. So this is where these aimed at subject teachers, helping them relate their subject to careers. And I know the Careers and Enterprise Company just brought out some good things too. Ours are based on sort of about 20 minutes really of a subject teacher's time that actually tied into an aspect of the curriculum they are delivering anyway. So we'll specifically say awarding body, for each awarding body, which aspect of the curriculum this relates to. So there's one for 24, I think we've got 23 subjects for Key Stage 4. So this is chemistry and biology, and then be 5 or 6 ideas of how that subject teacher can relate their subject to careers, like a video or a TED talk or something they could do, and they will be based on taking about 20 minutes. They're free. You can get a download of those from Career Pilot, from the Advisor Zone. We've also got them for Key Stage 5, and there is a small charge for those. You can request them through the Advisor Zone, and then you go to our little shop and you could purchase them there if they were of interest to you. We've also got hot jobs. So these are to help with Gatsby 2. So Gatsby 2 said we should be telling young people and parents about jobs and labour market information. So you can request access to these. We had 30, we're just up to 40 now, hot jobs, and most of them are in Oh, now go back a bit, went a bit faster. They're all in poster format, and some are also in social media formats. You can send them out through newsletters, and they're also in information board format. So some schools now do job of the week using these. And we're currently working on a set of NHS jobs, and for these we're going to have some extension activities like 20-minute tutor time activities where a tutor could help to get students to understand the job in a bit more detail than just the poster. So there'll be particular activities they can do with videos they can look at and things like that. Okay, so I've just gone through the student area and the advisor area. I'm keeping going because I can't see any chat, but do let me know if anything comes through. I know Sarah's had to go. So I'm going to talk quickly about the parents zone. Parents live at the main site, so definitely tell them about that. And on the advisor zone, we've got introductory emails you can send to parents to tell them, you know, you're using Career Pilot and how they can use it. They're all set up for you. But this is the parent zone. This is where parents can get answers to questions they want to know, but sometimes don't know who to ask. So it mirrors the site in the sense it's got choices as 14, 16, 18, apprenticeships, whatever. And for each of those, there's a set of questions that are commonly asked by parents, and we've written an answer and given them additional links. There's also some videos from parents talking about their experiences as well. So I'll whiz you through the parent zone. We're now on the final zone, which is the parents at the reporting zone. So this is where you can see all the data that's been generated by your students using Career Pilot. Don't forget, they need to be signed in for that data to get into here. But now you'll be able to see all your users that have attributed themselves to your school. You can sort them into other groups like tutor groups, and then you can look at reports by group or by individual. Now, if you want access to this, you have to complete a date sharing agreement. You can request that through the advisor zone. That's signed off by somebody in SLT. We give you a password, and then that password keeper, we call them, can issue passwords to other people. Then you can see all the reports. So you could set a homework activity or a Homeland activity, and in our tasks completed report, you could see whether the students had done the things you'd set them. You can also look at their reports from here as well. You could look at what job sectors the whole year 12 are interested in, or year 11, and that would help you if you're thinking about encounters to meet the needs of your students. You could download all these reports and play with them whatever way you want. You can also drill down to an individual, and this is where you'll be able to see their full report. I use that one a lot. This is where you can write the comments as well against the student, write the report from guidance. You can download that report, and then you could send it to a parent. And you could view any previous reports as well. So they snapshot saved at the end of the last academic year. So that's a very quick whiz through the reporting zone. We do run webinars specifically on the reporting zone if you decide to sign up for that. I can see the Richard's typing, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. You can export them into an Excel spreadsheet. So if that's possible for you then to upload onto Compass Plus, then yes, you can do that. Okay, I'm going to talk quickly now about the Pathway Planner, which is our new thing. This, as I mentioned, was developed through a bid to the Crazen Enterprise Company. And our bid was to develop a whole school approach to personal guidance using triage. We piloted it last year and it's now available for other schools and colleges if you want to purchase it as an add-on to your Career Pilot site. Okay, so this is the model that we've been piloting. So it's based on the principle of actually having a whole school approach to you have preparation guidance, you have guidance, and then you have follow-up. And a key part of the preparation is they use our Pathway Planner, which is a triage tool. So it starts with a 1-hour pre-guidance session, we call it, but that's really about option choices. So for year 11, we'll be talking about their next stage options, their options post-16, year 12 we're talking about post-18. Now we know schools do loads of things to talk about option choices, but on this one occasion, we will make sure that everybody in that room knows all the different options. And then they'll get some time on Career Pilot to explore the ones they're particularly interested in, about 30 minutes, and then they're going to do the Pathway Planner. And now we're going to say to them, which pathways are you interested in? And then we're going to give them a quiz format to find out how ready they are for their pathway. They'll get a red, amber, green score to show how ready they are. And that data can all be accessed through the reporting zone. So you can see all that, and then you can allocate guidance according to 3 levels of need. Then the guidance will take place. The reports can be recorded on Career Pilot, as I showed you, and then about 4 weeks after guidance, a tutor, head of 6, whoever, does a 5-minute follow-up asking 3 questions. It literally takes 5 minutes. Now, wrapped around this is at least 1 lunchtime a week of drop-in. And after the students have their one-to-one session, there is a drop-in option. So tutors can refer them to that. They can refer themselves. They can also request e-guidance as well, which I'll show you, and that can all be recorded through the system. So I'm just going to show you this quickly. So the students, they have their option choice session, and we've designed some structured sessions for you to use. Then for the last 10 minutes, they're going to do the pathway planner. Oops, sorry, going the wrong way, which is here. And they're going to find out about, they're going to see the pathways we've been talking about right through this session. And they're going to say whether they're definitely considering not doing. Then they're going to do a quiz. So it's going to ask them questions about the pathway they're interested in. So I'm definitely want to go to university, and we're going to say, okay, do you know what course subject you want to apply for? Is the cost putting you off? And behind this, there's a weighting for each of the responses they give. So they don't see the scoring, but what they get is a red, amber, green score to show how ready they are for their pathway. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on chat as well. So this student, for example, they definitely want to do university level study, but they are amber, which would mean that there's some sort of gaps in their knowledge or the things they've done. They're considering apprenticeships, they're red for that, so there's obviously quite a few things. Now, what we do when we allocate guidance is go by the definite pathway, and obviously when we meet them, we'll be checking in about their apprenticeship interest as well. So the students can go in and view, edit their answers if they learn more, but what this can be done through the other end of the system, you can actually use this data. So everybody's going to get guidance, which obviously gets me 8, but they're going to have different levels. And in our pilot, green had 20 minutes, amber had 30 minutes, and red, which was anybody who was definite and showing red about a pathway, anybody with additional needs, or any student thinking about apprenticeships, because they're quite complicated, will get the maximum guidance. There's timelines students could look at, which I'll show you in a minute, and they could also, after their first session, request guidance, as I said, like e-guidance. So I've flipped around now to the other side of the system, go back to the reporting zone, but now we've got a new section called the Pathway Planner. And this is now where I could see all that data. So if year 11 had done it, I'd see it here, but year 12 have done it in this case. So I could see at a glance, really, what pathways they're interested in, but also how ready they are for those pathways. And then I'll use that and other information I've got of them about grades or whatever to actually allocate guidance. You can tag additional needs in the system, and those students are going to get the maximum level of guidance, irrespective really of what they've said. But you can see if you look along, they are considering quite a few things. There's various actions you can perform against the students. You can see all their answers, and some schools use those answers to put group sessions together because there are people with common issues. You can view a timeline, which I'm going to show you. Book guidance, a different sorts of guidance, so it would show on their timeline. You could do a one-liner follow-up as they leave guidance, you know, kind of what they're going out saying. The tutor's follow-up can show up on here, and the advisor comments can be added. So there's lots of stuff you can record in the Career Pilot progression pathway planner. And here too, you can also see if you've got any guidance booked for a student. If it's pink, you've done it, and if it's green, it's sort of coming up. So I'm not going to show you much on this because we haven't got much time, but just to show the timeline I mentioned. So what you can see here is on the 28th of November, the student did the pathway planner, and they were essentially 2 reds and number. Then they had a long guidance intervention on the 24th of February, then the guidance to get them to edit their responses. And you can see now they're getting into green and amber. So it's a great visual way to see how the students are preparing themselves for moving on, or for you to be able to offer interventions to make sure that they get to that point of being in a good position. So if you're interested in Pathway Planner, you know, we've got all sorts of webinars, introduction webinars on Pathway Planner. We've got webinars for careers advisors who are engaged with the Pathway Planner. But there is a small charge for it. It's £250 per year for schools, or £400 for a college. And then, you know, you use it through your free Career Pilot. Now, what you get is you get a 2-hour training session, which is compulsory because we help you to set it up, give you all the lesson plans and resources, and we obviously switch it on for you. But you also become part of a user group, and that user group will help to take it forward. Yeah, so the way it works for you, if you're an advisor, is your school can give you access. So the password keeper in the school can set you up as an administrator for that specific school, and then you'll be able to see all the reports. There's different levels of access they can give you. They can either give you school admin, so you can see all students, or they could give you a sort of guidance access, and then they'll have to put you into the groups they want you to see. Okay, there's more information about that. We've got user guides about the reporting zone on our advisor zone if you want to have a little look. Okay, so there's a whole tile in our advisor zone about the pathway planner if you want to have a bit more of a look at that, and if you want to register. Oh, somebody's just coming in. Hopefully they've been in and out, not just coming in the end. Okay, so I've given you a quick rustle through. I'm happy to take any more questions. But in terms of where we started on with this webinar, which is about effective careers in the virtual world, hopefully you've been able to see that Career Pilot can be very effective in helping students to explore their careers, become career ready, but also reassure them about the range of things that are out there so they feel more in control of their careers. In terms of resources, if you wanted to get going quite quickly, you could just get your students registered. We've got video about that. You could direct them to particular activities to do. You could send them an online lesson to do. Those are quick things. You could deliver a lesson yourself. You could deliver one of our recorded sessions, like the one about virtual work experience, for example, and stop and start the video and get them to do activities. They've all got timings on them, do this for 10 minutes. Or you could go one stage further. We could pick up our presentations from our advisor zone by key stage, and you could deliver the lesson yourself. All the things are there, or there's the 5-week PSHE programs, or the 20-minute tutor time activities as well. Other things you could do now is you could book a free one-to-one consultation with either myself or Sean from the team, and we would kind of talk about it in your context and see how we can help you get it implemented. Start with 1-year group or whatever you decide to do. You might want to get access to the reporting zone, because if you're going to get your students registered and using the site, it'd be good for you to be able to see all that information in the back end. And if you want to, you could request a student login so you can try the site out. So all the things I've talked about today, you can have a little play with. You won't be able to see the reporting zone, but you can certainly try it out from a student point of view. We also have a helpline, which is available from 9 till 3 every day in term time. And if you do want a student login, you could just ask. Joe is the person, Joe Davis, on the helpline. You could just send an email and ask for a student login. So I've talked a lot. We've probably only got about a minute or 2 left. I'm happy to take questions, but one thing it would be great for me to know in terms of feedback, if you wouldn't mind putting in chat, is kind of one thing you're going to take away from today's session, or one thing you're thinking of doing as a result of today's webinar. If you want to put your hand up and put your mic on, ask a question, that's fine too. So just put your hand up. In the top bar, there's a little figure waving their hand if you want to ask a direct question. Right, thanks, Patricia. Thanks, Nick. We will send out this recording, and also a few other links that might be useful to you, like if you want to know more about the Pathway Planner as well. And I'll send you a link to our training if you want to sign up for any other webinars. What I'm going to do is stop the recording now so we can just chat.